Salutare tuturor! Mă aflu aici la Institutul Hippocrates și astăzi am onoarea de a-l intervieva pe mentorul meu, Clement. Clement a fost mentorul meu și este în continuare mentorul meu de 10 ani de zile și este singura voce pe care o ascult în domeniul sănătății, în domeniul nutriției, în domeniul vindecării naturale. Și cele 6 săptămâni pe care le-am petrecut aici au fost cele mai minunate din viața mea și vreau să îi spun mentorul meu că sunt mentorată de el. Brian, I feel like I'm blessed to have you as my mentor. For 10 years you are my mentor. I only listen to your voice. And now I want you present yourself.
Bună ziua. How are you today? So it's lovely to have you here because, as you know, Hippocrates is an international organization. And our interest is to change the human race, to liberate people from fear and disease and disorder and discord. And having you in Romania is a great thing because I'm sure with your absolute affirmative and positive way of looking at life and how you've changed yourself and evolved as a person, you're going to be quite an important person in your country.
Thank you, Brad. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to ask you something now. I know that the mission of the Hippocrates Health Institute is to help people help themselves.
Right.
And a lot of people, many people, they wait to other people to change. They wait to other people to fix themselves.
Yes.
Can somebody fix me or can somebody fix you?
No, the truth of the matter is people spend more time finding shoes and buying automobiles than they do taking care of the most important gift, their health. And we've got to change that thinking. In our societies, all throughout the world, we've created a mindset of dependency. So if I have an emotional problem, I go to the priest, I go to the psychiatrist. If I have a physical problem, I go to the doctor. You've got to go to you first and ask yourself, what can I do? What effort can I put forth to make the changes? And that's what we do here. We give you those tools, the proven tools, the ones that have worked in thousands, hundreds of thousands of people's lives from all over the planet Earth. And you just have to be willing and understand the preciousness of the gift you have called existence.
Yes. And I want to ask you more about the Hippocrates lifestyle and what is the reason that people heal themselves with this lifestyle, because I heal myself with this lifestyle.
Yes, it's very simple. We go back to the most fundamental and foundational things that nature and God gave us. From the earth, the richest food, and the seeds. Remember, we even were taught in the Bible, we reap as we sow. So the seeds you put out is what you get. So it was very clearly stated. So we give you those seeds. And now as scientists, we've discovered amazing things in those seeds. We've discovered there's medicines that are encoded into the cells that prevent and reverse every single disease known to man. And also the fun part, it slows the aging process.
Yes, because you have 70 years.
Yes, I know I don't want 70 years, but I have 70 years. I'd like to give it away. Well, I feel great. It's not all the looks, you know, I think your energetic feeling and awareness is how we perceive people. And if you don't have the vitality as you mature, even when you're 100 years old, that you had when you were 20 years old, something's wrong with that picture. You know, our bodies may not be as resilient at 80 or 90 or 100, but our attitudes should be. Our light should be as bright as when we were born.
Yes, I want to ask you about the attitude. How important is attitude in the healing process?
It's 100% of everything. You know, when you start to recognize that what blocks you, what blocks me, what blocks all people on the planet Earth is the word no. The word no immediately stops you. No, I can't be healthy. No, I can't have a good relationship. No, I can't stop eating sugar. No, I can't stop eating animal foods. We've got to convert the no to a yes. But the culture and the society in Romania and all over the planet Earth is a no culture. Everyone smiles and everyone's polite, but nobody wants to do anything. And it takes courage to say yes. Because once you say the word yes, an affirmative yes, you have to act. You have to do something. And it's time that we get off our asses and we start to act. We start to pursue life. We start to have passion for life. And until we're ready to do that, don't complain. And don't wonder why you're sick. You're sick because nature's saying, do something.
Dragilor, vreau să vă spun că aici la Institutul Hippocrates se pune foarte mare accent pe germeni și plăstari. Ăsta e motivul pentru care la bufet noi avem în față primii care sunt germeni și plăstarii și aici ne se spune că tot ce este dincolo de plăstari sunt doar pentru gust, hrană doar pentru gust. Nutriția se află în germeni și plăstari. Și vreau să-l întreb pe Brian mai multe despre germeni. Brian, why do you always talk about sprouts? What are the benefits of the sprout, and what is the difference between a sprout and a vegetable?
Well, a sprout is the most powerful part of a vegetable. Remember, a sprout takes roots and puts it into the ground, becomes a proud mother, and produces hundreds or thousands of seeds, and gives birth to many generations to perpetuate. It's a sustainable way of eating. Now, every one of those little seeds, those sprouts, have the power that produces hundreds or thousands of seeds. Can you imagine how much more nutrition, how much more energy, how much more healing you get from something like that? So that's the number one. Number two, it could wipe out world hunger, world starvation. In Romania and here in the United States, we have people going to bed hungry at night and starving unnecessarily. If we just took the seeds that were not used, and better yet, 80% of seeds are fed to animals, so 40% of the population can eat animals, world hunger would be gone within 2 years. And so 1 kilo of seeds, any type of seeds, generally produce 10 kilos of food. Think of that. So this is not only for you and your health and the number one, the highest protein, the highest vitamins, the highest essential fats, but as you know, the hormones, oxygen, phytochemicals, and enzymes, but also it will help other human beings. That's why we have to eat this way.
Yes. Vreau să-l întreb pe Brian, noi trăim astăzi într-o lume în care avem stres de 100 de ori sau poate de sute de ori mai multă decât în anul trecut. Nu mai trăim ca strămoșii noștri și cred că avem mai multă nevoie de nutrienți, mai mult ca niciodată și din păcate 91% din suplimente sunt sintetice astăzi. Și vreau să-l întreb pe Brian ce crede despre asta, că avem nevoie de suplimente sau nu. Brian, 91% of the supplement of the market of the worldwide are chemicals.
Yes.
I don't take any of this. But we need nourishment. We need more nourishment today because
than ever.
Yes, because we don't live like our ancestors. Yes. We have a lot of stress. And we need more nutrients. Do you think that we need supplements?
Well, I choose to take supplements. Not that I'm deficient in anything, but if you want more life, if you want longer life, if you want more abundant life, and more vitality, supplements can help. But you have to go down to that food-based supplement that hasn't been processed, that hasn't been cooked. It's condensed food. So if we take, for instance, an algae or a sprout, and we dry it and we put it down, so there's, from a kilo, we get a very small amount of the most nutritious part. Can you imagine what that does to elevate your health and well-being? Building the cells, building the tissue of the body. And what's amazing is how we let even the most precious things become a business. And I'm a big fan of business. I think that free enterprise works because I've lived in countries that were social and it wasn't nice because there's restriction. But I can tell you one thing. This should be the sacred area because human health is precious. When we see a baby, we know that, but somehow we forget it. When we see an adult or an older person, our feelings go and we don't understand. Every single person has a value and a contribution they can make. And we should make that last as long as we possibly can. So supplements can really help you do that. And many, many people are lacking, even if they eat healthy food, certain nutrients. So now we're realizing in the last few years that there's genetic dispositions to digesting certain foods. Methylation is what we call it. So as an example, some people can't methylate B12. And if you don't methylate B12, and that's a high percentage of the population, you lose your memory. So you see people who lose their memory. Yes, maybe they didn't eat right, but possibly it was they didn't take the right supplement at that point. And it's going to take some time, but medical doctors are going to have to learn this because we may be a generation from that. But this is what we've been teaching here, and as you know, watching people like you come back to life, and people with much more serious diseases during the time you've been here with us. How many people did you meet that healed major disease?
Yes. Aici la institut noi postim, ținem post o zi pe săptămână miercurea cu apă și lămâie, cu sucuri verzi, cu suc de grâu. Și aș vrea să-l întreb pe Brian astăzi cât de important este postul pentru sănătatea noastră fizică, psihică și, bineînțeles, din punct de vedere spiritual. Brian, what about fasting?
Well, I'm a big advocate of fasting. I've been doing it for nearly 50 years. And I think what people have to understand is that we get into a cycle of taking. So for an emotional reason, it's good to arrest that. For your body, it's brilliant. The body needs time to purge. Now, I'm extremely healthy. But when I fast, and today when we're speaking, I'm still fasting, I see my body says, oh, Brian is not eating, so let's purge more. So I see better evacuation. As a matter of fact, when I go to the sauna, I see more poisons come out of my body. And can you imagine if you've been eating the Romanian diet? My gosh, you have a lot to do. As I was eating the American diet, which is actually worse than the Romanian diet.
Yes.
It took me a very long time to get that out of my body. But the fact is, even healthy people eating the most healthy diet, nature made it. So you eliminate waste and build. It's like you go and deconstruct a home and rebuild a home. Every day, every minute of your life. So fasting accelerates that.
And
fasting,
you need to fast 1 day a week or more?
Yes. Everyone should consider fasting 1 day a week. Now there's exceptions. If you're anorexic, if you're bulimic, if you're emaciated, very skinny, because you may have taken chemotherapy or radiation, so we have to build you up. But eventually, when you recover, certainly everyone should fast, and it's very, very, very important for you. I believe a big percentage of a person's health is fasting properly on green juices and wheatgrass and pure water, and maybe some lemon in that, just to really let that body have a rest. We need that rest.
Yes. Aici, la institut, 98% cred că din alimentație este crudă, mâncând doar hrană vie, fără produse animale, raw vegan, în mare parte, 99%, eu mănânc 100%, dar sunt oameni care mai cer o legumă fiară, puțin apă. Și vreau să-l întreb pe Brian de ce e atât de importantă alimentația raw vegan. Brian, why the raw food diet is the best diet in the world?
Well, first we have to remind everyone that every single creature we stare at this beautiful earth with eats 100% raw food in nature. There's not one creature other than you and I, human beings, that cook our food. The average life expectancy of all creatures is 7 times the length of their maturity. So as an example, we mature at about 21 to 25 years old. So what is 21 times 7?
140.
You got it, over 140 years. So we should be living 140 years. As Harvard University told us, if we could take the emotions out of the equation, the average person today on a proper diet would live 140 years. We're not doing that. And the sad news is that the academic community all over the world, in Eastern Europe, in Asia, have given us bad information. They tell you were hunters and gatherers. Wrong, we were gatherers. A handful of us became hunters because we lived in desperate situations in cold climates in the wintertime, and we were starving, so it started to be. And then the aristocracy adapted, they were perverted, and they actually started to consume animals, and because they were inbred and they were a little crazy. And then people looked at the aristocracy and said, oh my gosh, I want to be like them. So eating a lamb or eating a pork is perfectly fine. Just yesterday I watched on the internet where they put soda on top of pork and the worms came right out. So this is what you're consuming, people. And there's zero need for this. It's not only the suffrage of the poor animals and the factory farm conditions, but it's unnecessary. I've raised 4 children. They've never touched an animal-based food in their life. They're raising 8 of my grandchildren. They've never touched an animal food in their life. And they flourish and they're healthy. And most of the world today primarily eats a plant-based diet. And it's the minority in Europe and here that do not. And sadly, when people get money, they think the right thing to do is to do that. It's the wrong thing to do. A raw diet gives you vitality. You don't destroy the vitamins, you don't destroy the nutrients, and you can feel the difference. When I was just a vegetarian and then a vegan, and I was eating mostly cooked food, I felt good. Now I feel extraordinary. There's a big difference between good and extraordinary.
I feel the same. I am vegan for 10 years and I am raw vegan. I had a lot of time in these 10 years that I was raw vegan, but now I have 1 year only with raw food.
You can tell.
It's a decision for life. I don't want to come back at the cooked food.
Yeah, well, you look like a 20-year-old girl.
Thank you. I have 42.
I know.
Thank you.
You're 42 going on 20.
And I was very, very sick. At 20, I was.
I know you were very sick.
Yes. What about exercise?
You can't be healthy without exercise. So people think, oh, I'm just going to eat vegan food. Well, it's not enough. You need to build muscle. You need to circulate the bloodstream. You need to stretch the body. Every sexy person that you and I see exercises. You don't look like that without exercising. And what it does for your mind is as important as your body. We've seen here that people who have light to moderate depression, if they just do aerobic exercise, 50% recover within 2-3 weeks. We see that when you have muscle, even as you age, even as you get older, your brain, your heart, and your libido works. Without the muscle, the hormones can't be created. We see the attitude of people, the vitality that people get. It really is a natural state. Our bodies were all built to exercise, and we always did until very recently. It's only been the last century or more that we're sitting and we're watching television. There were no television. Listening to radio, there was no radios. What was entertainment? People were playing. People were outside. People were walking. That's how people lived. And then what did they do for work? They farmed. And boy, that was exercise. We have to change. We have to go back to the basics again. And until humanity goes back to the basics, we're going to be confused, lost, and ill.
Yes. I drink distilled water for about 10 years, but a lot of people, they are afraid about the distilled water.
There's a lot of misinformation on distilled water. They actually tell you it's hungry water. I don't know what that means. What should be said is you and I are hungry for water. That 60% of us lack enough water. We lack enough fluid. And so we're dehydrated. Dehydration can make you sick quicker than most other things. 80% of your brain is actually constructed of water. You just lose 3%, your brain gets foggy. You get confused. We see it here all the time. People tell us for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, I've been confused. What's happened? I feel better. Well, we're hydrating. As you know, every time you turn around, we give you the juice, we give you the water. We always give you that. Distilled water is what rainwater is. Distilled water is what the water in plants are. Because plants know they don't want minerals that they can't utilize. They actually use the distilled. The rainwater, yes, it has pollution today because of man, but the truth of the matter is, that's pure distilled water. How we learned to distill back during the Roman times, during the times of Greece, is we watched rain. And it takes away everything else but the hydrogen and oxygen. And anyone that would tell you that's bad for you is wrong. You've had it for 10 years, I've had it for 50 years. And my bones are strong, and I'm healthy, and everything you've heard is wrong about distilled water. That's the water everyone on earth should be consuming. It's the only one that's really pure that can be afforded by the population.
Yes. Dragilor, vreau să-l întreb acum pe Brian despre 5G. Eu mă protejez de foarte mulți ani de zile. Am un medalion, am brățara aceasta care mă protejează și mă protejez de 6 ani de zile împotriva radiațiilor. Și vreau să-l întreb pe Brian cât de important este să ne protejăm, pentru că dacă nu ne-am protejat, am fi la fel ca și cum am fi la microunde. Radiați tot timpul, nu stăm în radiația aceea. Brian, what about 5G? We need to have devices that protect us?
Absolutely. One of the most frightening things I've seen in all the time I've done this is they're using technologies today that were used for war in the past, rather than inventing safe technologies. When we use cell phones, that alone is a problem. But now when they went from 4G to 5G, it's 100 times worse for us. So imagine that. If something's bad one time, how about twice or 3 times or 100 times? Wow, you're being bombarded constantly with this. And it weakens your immune system. And as you've seen me educate you, it changes the DNA. It changes the atmosphere. That the oxygen in the air is not available to breathe the way you should. People say, well, that's impossible. This is all scientific. There's nothing I'm saying here that hasn't been validated scientifically and provable by people. But sadly, the cell industry and governments all over the world who work in collaboration spend more money convincing you it's safe than fixing it. There are ways to create technology. People like Tesla created that. Who's alive today is Elon Musk. And very soon, we're going to have a situation where free energy will be coming. And we won't have to hurt ourselves for technology. But we're going to transmute that and get to a point where we're tapping into the powers of the planet and the universe that we're in. And we do this now, but we do it individually. Can you imagine when we harness this and harbor it? But for the meantime, you and I have to wear this. Every man, woman, and child on earth should be wearing this. I hope in Romania you spread this news.
Yes.
And my dream is to have everybody wear this until we get rid of the 5G.
Yes. Dragilor, aici la institut, fructele sunt foarte rare. About fruits, I want to say. Eu mănânc foarte rar, cred că o să iau decizia să nu mai mănânc deloc, am și luat decizia asta, cred că am vreo 12 zile fără fructe. Oamenii care se bolnavi cu cancer 2 ani de zile este interzis să se atingă de fructe, pentru că orice boală, orice virus, orice bacterie se hrănește cu zahăr. Brian, what about fruit?
This is one of the most difficult things that we teach here, we propagate.
Yes.
And why it is because everyone's struggling just to eat fruits and vegetables. Then when you come here to the pioneer of natural health care and lifestyle medicine, we say most of you shouldn't be eating any fruit, and some of you should only eat small amounts. Now, the first reason is we're all sugar addicts. That you've been trained since you were a little girl and I'm a little boy, sugar, 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 and before you know it, it's an addiction. It's the most difficult addiction I've ever worked with.
So much.
Yeah, it's horrible. And most people don't realize alcoholism is a sugar addiction. And when they test people for heroin and cocaine, it's less addictive than sugar. So forgive yourself if you're having a hard time doing it. So most people in Romania and around the world, they're just so proud they're eating fruit versus hamburgers. The fact is, they're still feeding their addiction. Now, why? Fruit was actually the original diet of human beings. There's no question in my mind about that. Because the Chinese, thousands of years ago, started to play with it. They started to mix one fruit with another to make it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And today they're using genetic modification to do that. And so there's an unnaturally large amount of fruit, 30, 40, 50, 60 times more sugar than that original fruit would have. The next thing we have to talk about is the pancreas in your body that regulates mine and yours and everyone else's. Sugar, it's not working well. Because remember, you've been eating sugar in everything you've eaten from the time you were a child. And so this poor pancreas is like overworked and tired and old. So every little bit of sugar you put in pours into the bloodstream. And either you get a low blood sugar condition or diabetes, high blood sugar condition, or it feeds cancers or viruses or bacteria or mold or yeast or fungus because it's not being burned up by the cell. Sugar is part of the fuel for the cell, but we can't take such high amounts of it. People in a salad, a person your size needs 2 small salads a day to get all the sugar you need. Anything beyond that is going to float in your bloodstream. The next thing people have to understand is whatever you're doing, congratulations if you're improving. We're not here to say you're bad. I mean, I had to transition, to eating lots of fruit. And then slowly recognize this. In my work, I see people healing, I see people not healing. And when people were eating sugar of fruit, they were not healing well, or very rarely healing. When we took the fruit away, overnight, instant changes. People were healing. But once again, it's the most difficult food I ever gave up. It's the most difficult thing I've ever worked with people to give up. And why I choose not to eat any is I'm like you and everyone else. I take one piece, I eat the whole box. And that's the difficult thing. Yes.
Yes, I had psoriasis for 10 years and only if when I give up a fruit,
it went away.
Yes.
So your psoriasis went away when you gave up the sugar, sure?
Yes.
Yeah. Because the psoriasis are with the fungus inside of your body. And so the fungus is fed by the sugar. Once you did, finish.
Yes, now I don't have nothing.
Yes.
It's most difficult thing for me.
It is difficult. I mean, remember, people don't realize, you've been getting the sugar so long that you still want it. You just want a legal form of it, an organic form of it, and it's the same.
Yes.
The body doesn't care.
Yes. Vreau să vorbesc acum despre alcool, pentru că industria alcoolului a făcut studiile pe care ne prezintă, ne arată ca alcoolul ca ceva benefic pentru noi și Brian nu e de acord cu asta, o să o zic sigur. Eu am renunțat la alcool acum 11 ani, de 11 ani nu am mai pus alcool în gura mea, niciun fel de alcool. Brian, I want to ask about alcohol. I don't take alcohol for 11 years, any alcohol.
Yes. And I know when you were young, you used to drink alcohol.
Oh, a lot. Yes.
Yeah. Did you ever have an addiction to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so.
And my father. This is the reason that I was my family. It was only all the family was for this addiction that my father had. All the family was the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
No good childhood.
We live in hell with the addiction of our son for 20 years.
Alcohol is alcohol. You know, people have ideas that are wrong. They say, as an example, that I take organic alcohol, I only take beer, I only take wine. Alcohol is alcohol. Many years ago, a physicist friend of mine and I were talking, and we had a challenge, a debate, and he won because he said, do you think beer is as bad as whiskey? And I said, no. And he said, do you realize that beer has one shot of whiskey in it? So yes, it's hops, and yes, it's not as strong as whiskey, but the truth is you have one shot. So people say, I'm only drinking beer, they would never take a shot of whiskey, but they're getting the same thing. And think about how bad alcohol is. If you drink enough of it, it not only destroys families, like you saw, and destroys your health, but it also destroys your liver. It also makes it so you're not so intelligent. Your brain cells start to die, your neurons start to die. And it is just a horrible addiction. It's the worst drug in the world. And what happened in all the countries, they make taxes on them. So rather than call them a drug, they say alcohol and drugs. I don't know of another drug that's destroyed more lives and broken up more families than alcohol. It's the worst drug.
The last question, Brian, about coffee.
Yes, coffee.
Yes.
Well, you know, the coffee industry shrewdly started to pay for studies. And they put these studies in all the media around the world. I'm sure in your country they say how wonderful coffee is. Coffee makes you smart. Well, that's a stupid statement. Coffee doesn't make you smart. What you know is that our bodies have to be alkaline. I can't think of another way to put more acidity in your body than coffee. When you have an acid body, you age prematurely, and every single disease likes you better than when you're healthy and alkaline. So there's so many reasons. The caffeine alone makes an addictive. When people come here and they come off coffee, they're shaking just like they're on drugs. And it's so difficult. They get headaches, they get nausea. Anything that could do that for you, how could that be good for you? So please get rid of the coffee. So it's so nice being with you today.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you.
Send my love to Romania.
Yes, thank you.